you may or may not be aware, there's a lot of stuff that happens that doesn't necessarily make it into a video or even into a stream. So this is the video where I'll be covering those topics. I'm going to call this the Gaku update for now. Subject to change, but anyway, first things first. We haven't had the Muhammad Jihad campaign. We haven't had a session of the campaign the past 2 weeks. So 2 Fridays ago, there weren't enough people who showed up. Last Friday, we were still missing people. So basically, those of us who were there decided to call it quits. Crucial states, Abu Dhabi was the only nation to westernize. Everyone else, even whether they did well or not, really wasn't a feasible way we could take on the United States. And this is due in part to decisions that give the United States just way too much power. And there's, of course, Manifest Destiny chief among them. But anyway, we had a lot of catching up to do, and it was getting kind of late in the game, 1875 already, and with only one of us having westernized and just constant rebellions to deal with, constant invasions, we'd have to rethink this strategy a little bit and maybe come up with something different, maybe something else to make it a bit more fair for us, because as it was just was not working out. So that is the end of Muhammad Jihad, unfortunately. Now, we are using the same map, though, for our upcoming Friday campaign, and it, too, will be a small nations campaign, except all small nations will be open. There's some small changes to this campaign that should make it more enjoyable than maybe the previous one which we were playing for Muhammad Jihad. The most important change is that all overlapping cores are being removed. So nations will no longer have free CBs against those around them. This is especially true for all of Eastern Europe, also true for the Middle East, where the Ottomans and Persia had overlapping cores with everyone. It's true for parts of Africa, and we haven't quite finished Asia yet, but most of the map is finished. Also, some of the uncolonized areas have been given to their respective nations that should realistically include those different states. So Ural states been expanded north, Siberia, Yakutia, etc. Let's see what else. Byzantine Empire, which was on Jan Mayen, that's gone back to Norway. So a little bit more sensible as far as the gameplay goes, I would predict. And of course, this is open to anyone, so if you're interested in playing, let me know, and feel free to hop in. This Sunday, I took part in DSCH's Casual Victoria 2 game. About 15 players, now is subbing for Arabia. This was the start of the session. So you can see France had a rough time of it, but that changed later on. So this was the start of the session. Where we ended was approximately here. A little bit after, I didn't get a save of it, but you get the idea. France took back basically everything it lost, plus some from Germany. Just became a beast, and that was Vincenio, I believe. Actually, as Arabia at the time in game, I was ranked 12th, and I actually surpassed Germany in ranks, so I would say that's a win for Arabia. But mostly I just spent the session trying to build up the economy, which was in shambles. I don't know who I was subbing for, but could have gone a little bit better for them. I had a non-aggression pact with both the Ottomans and Persia, which is a little bit annoying, but I went ahead and honored it. And I did join the Great War at the end of the session, so I'm currently at war with UK. This is my core. I took it back from UK, but the war was not concluded, so eventually, hopefully, I would have ended up with it. Also, had other regional interests in the area. The Zanzibar state was here, even though I have Zanzibar state, but there is a Zanzibar state, so that's confusing. There's also Kingdom of South Angola, which is interesting. And so yeah, it was fun to play with the guys, I should say. You know, wasn't a whole lot that I could do, but it was nice just to play with everyone again. UK lost horribly, and Gurin took southern England, and I guess that's, yeah, basically Cornwall area off of England, and Italy took part of Ireland. And also notice in the New World that the USA did not do so well. Canada really kicked its ass at some point. South America, not a whole lot happening, but I guess these were players at one point. They expanded a bit, but mostly quiet. The one thing I did do as Arabia was I took over Ghana, so that was an independent state, but not for long. This was the last session of this particular campaign, so this will not be continued. And we'll see if I have time in the future for either Slazer's Saturday or DSCH's Sunday games. I've also been working a bit on Pony Demand Mod, and aside from simply updating it for Divide by Zero, the newest version, the biggest change that I'm hoping to include in the next rollout is this, what I'm going to call Diplomatic Stances. So this is an event that Equestria gets shortly after the game starts, and Griffonia will get similar ones. So that is, advisors caution that the human nation of the United States is working to increase its influence over our great nation. How should we tone our formal diplomatic interactions with our powerful neighbors? So basically, this is where you decide how you are going to interact with the United States on a general basis. Now, the problem with Pony Demand Mod in its original or current state is that within the confines of Victoria 2, United States will always try and crush both you and Griffonia. Well, this allows you some options to try and get around that. If you do whatever it takes to appease the United States, you're much more likely to survive, but you might place some additional hardships on yourself. For example, instead of manifest destiny, they might just demand a state off of you. If we have the Confederacy might demand some of your ponies be sold into slavery. That is, they might expect you to sell them some of your population. Things get a little bit complicated, but basically your stance here will impact your relations with the other nations, especially as AIs, because the more you try to improve relations, Victoria 2 again doesn't model it very well, but what this will do is if you go to any if you do anything possible to keep the United States happy, then they have no reason to outright attack you, but they might make demands, and then if you accept those demands or not will determine what they do next. Same thing for Griffonia. Griffonia really has no military capabilities on its own, but if it's able to keep both Equestria and the United States happy in a variety of ways, then maybe they'll survive and actually be a viable country that can westernize. Also, as Equestria, if you've played this before, you know that the only real viable option is to annex Griffonia outright. That is, just attack them on day zero, basically. And I want to try and avoid that, so with your diplomatic stance toward Griffonia, you no longer have to do that in order to protect the area from the United States. So there will be some interplay there, and we'll see what happens. But also, Equestria is going to have relations with U.S., Griffonia, Mexico. Griffonia will have United States and Equestria, and depending on the interplay between them and the relative relations for any given group, that will determine what options the AI picks at any given point. So should be interesting, I think, but right now it's still a work in progress. And finally, this was a game of Europa Universalis IV that I began as the nation of Gelra. I was trying to get a number of achievements, which I managed to get. First off, starting as a one-province minor, forming the nation of the Netherlands. That was a challenge, and then as you can see, I expanded quite a bit through Europe, but that didn't do much for the rest of the achievements. Also took a bit of land in the New World, but I tried to avoid that because colonial nations are kind of wonky, as you might know. But what I did do the next is trying to expand around Africa, and I did pretty good with that. And for the next set of achievements, there is one called Sinosopol. I have no idea how you pronounce it. Anyway, you need a province in China with the Orangists in power and with 100 Republican traditions, so that was fun. After that, I still had some time, so I decided to take all of Japan. That was another achievement, taking all of Japan as a West European nation. And finally, one last achievement, which I found was actually bugged, but this last achievement was taking all of India as a West European nation and supposedly coring it. Even though I haven't finished coring it, it did give me the achievement. I did try and get one last achievement France is currently in revolution, and I was trying to crush the revolution, but presumably because I am a Dutch Republic, I don't even have that option. So I went to war with them, and at this point I've decided this is the end of the campaign. So I will be playing some additional EU4. The new expansion comes out later today, which means I'll probably be getting that plus 2 other expansions. And I might start doing some legitimate Let's Plays rather than just the chopped up videos like I had been doing. It's also a good time to mention I'm no longer going to be posting the unedited videos on my main channel, but if you want to see the unedited Let's Plays, especially streams, multiplayer games, that sort of thing, I do have a separate channel for that, and I'll have a link up where you can, if you're interested, you can go check that out. But if not, on this channel I'll be focusing mostly on edited videos from here on out. So this being obviously the first of those. Last thing I wanted to mention, I have been working a little bit on Terulia, and one of the major improvements to that is that now you can log in from one server to another, and the new server, if there's no server up, then a server node will launch a server for you, which basically means that the world is infinitely expandable. That does require some additional work on the engine, which is what I am working on at the moment, but otherwise I think it's a really good improvement, and it should make things a bit more efficient later on down the line, and of course be beneficial if there happen to be more players at some later date. So that's all for this video. I'm probably gonna chill for a little bit and maybe start the next campaign. I think I might try a Norway campaign. They do have that one achievement where they need to get all the naval supply provinces, and that sounds like a hell of a challenge. So kind of a slow start to that game I'm anticipating, but we'll see where I go with it. So let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know what you think of the direction of the channel. And of course, if you're interested in watching what I'm doing at any given point, whether it's working on Terulia, whether it's working on Pony Demand Mod, or of course playing games, you can check out my Twitch channel. Highly recommend that. And otherwise, thanks for watching and have a good one.